My issue with growing is how to appear on people's screens. The issue of promoting yourself somewhere is that it's usually prohibited in almost every single community, e.g. the Asumaverse Discord self-promotion is allowed in a specific channel nobody visits aside for doing their own promotion. Relying on people searching on a topic on your videos doesn't work properly as well because it's usually covered by a larger channel. If people will search for Let's Plays, they'll find Hermits or PewDiePie or something. If they search for update notes, they'll find You're a Cub Fan. If they search for Redstone, they'll find Mumbo or Ilmango. I've managed to find 3 uncovered Redstone ideas, but there are only that many videos that you can make out of them. This is precisely why I appreciate this kind of back and forth, because you raise something there that I haven't really told you. I have a lot of answers to these sorts of questions, and only certain ones come up when we have these talky topics. So I do have an answer for you, is that it can be incredibly competitive and that you do have to search for niches. If you look up general YouTube advice, you'll see a lot of people saying, don't go after the main search terms like Minecraft, Redstone. Try and find the more niche things and build a following there, and then with your following try to get the ball rolling, and then that later on allows you to compete with the bigger search terms. And it sounds kind of discouraging, and it probably should be, because going for the niches is the harder way to get started on YouTube, but it is a very competitive environment. And so if you're looking for search terms that has big channels dominated all over it, you need to be looking for different search terms to grab new viewers. SEO is your biggest friend when it comes to getting your content in front of people. SEO is search engine optimization. The title, tags and description box work hand in hand to push your video to the top of search results and recommended videos. A great tool to use is vidIQ, as it shows the other tags that YouTubers use for their videos. There is actually some discussion around how useful it is, but personally I think SEO makes a lot of sense if you're making the sort of content that people would go and search for. If you're just making a regular Minecraft Let's Play, that is not something that gets searched for a lot. And when it is searched for, it's a very, very competitive search term. So as I said a moment ago, you want to look for more niche things. But yes, learning SEO is really good. And it's one of those things that I think helps you once you get the ball rolling, but may not be the thing that gets you started. I've been making videos for about a year now. I kind of like it, but sometimes I seem to struggle with stuff because I prioritize other things. Well, having priorities is a really good thing, rather than just ambling through life doing whatever. If you have goals and ideas of what you need to do and you prioritize them, then you're probably going to end up doing the right thing. So I think the only thing you'd have to worry about is if you feel like maybe you should be prioritizing this over something else. But if you feel like you're prioritizing the right things, I wouldn't really worry about it. Just enjoy making the videos when you can. Heck, I've been making videos for almost 7 years. In fact, my sub count pretty much hasn't moved in 3.5 years. Did the traditional Let's Play style of stuff for years and found myself getting bored and discouraged by the seemingly insignificant results I was getting. So for a while, I said I quit. Come back some months later with the same kind of videos, but just earlier last year I pretty much did a complete 180 with the content I make, and I enjoy it much more now, to the point where I simply make them because I find it fun. Every now and then I get a video I consider to be a smashing success, passing 10k views, and the people who watch them always leave me nice positive comments or ask very worthwhile questions. At the end of the day, that's plenty for me. I basically wanted to read your comment just so I could pass it on to anyone listening. This is a nice little story right here, a great example of what not to do and what to do. You know, not to repeat yourself when it's not working, and to just focus on having fun, and that has worked for you. And yes, 10k views is a smashing success. I remember when I got my first 1,000 views on a video, it absolutely blew my mind. So congratulations, and keep having fun with your videos. Honestly, social media would be an amazing place if people started respecting each other's views and be more open-minded, but some people just can't understand that different people have a different way of thinking. Edit, or try to be civil when they're sharing their views. I agree, it really could be something powerful, but I think it's the innate nature of things like Twitter, the limited amount of characters, the fact that we're using text to communicate, that naturally inclines it towards a more negative position. And I think when we have face-to-face discussions about things, it's actually easier to see the human in the other person and be able to understand that difference, that people do have different walks of life and different ways of seeing things. I think though what you can do, once you realize this, is use it for your own social media experience. When I see someone being like really negative or doing something destructive online, I do also think that there is a reason behind their behavior. And so although the social media is sort of facilitating this negativity, it does tell you that that is a person there potentially in some sort of pain or having a hard time, and it being manifested through social media in this negative way. And that might have sounded a little bit odd and open-ended. I think what I was trying to say is once you realize something like this, it can be okay for you to be the open-minded person, listening to the other person, even if you're not being listened to back. You know, it might feel negative, but you can still be the positivity there. When it comes to commenting in social media, I always put out some kind of disclaimer because people so easily assume something. Example, like if I say cheese A is more expensive than cheese B, and I explained why it is more expensive, people can easily twist my words and say, yeah, but cheese B is delicious too. Not everyone can afford expensive cheese. When I am not talking about the taste at all, I was talking about the prices. So I need to put out a disclaimer saying less expensive cheese doesn't mean it's less delicious or less quality. It's still delicious. It's a really good point, and it made me think about one of the interactions that I had recently when I sort of threw myself into a bit of an argument without realizing it. I then kind of got involved in the discussion, and that felt like what was happening to me. Hang on, I was sort of trying to talk about this thing, and now you're throwing in this sort of other angle on it. But then if I think it through, that's probably what I was doing to their discussion as well, right? When we talk about things on social media with a limited amount of text, we kind of have like an image in our mind of what we're talking about, and the other person might not have the same image. And being able to communicate with voice in person, with body language and stuff, always helps you get a much clearer image, right? But with something like Twitter, those images can be quite different. And so I think you've made a really good point there, and it just kind of occurred to me that I could participate in that while thinking the other person is doing it to me, right? What I absolutely hate about social media is that you often can't tell the emotion of the person. That's where a lot of misunderstanding happens. This is a big problem with how we communicate with text. You know, I could even read your message in two different tones, right? Like, what I absolutely hate about social media, or what I absolutely hate about social media. You know, they just sound so different, right? One of the things that I do when I message people is I often put in smiley faces. Just whatever it is I'm saying, I'm usually saying things out of good intent, and I just kind of want to convey that with a text message that I send. And that is something I should probably try and do a little bit more. If I'm engaging on Twitter, I'm usually trying to fill in my 140 characters, right? And there's not enough room for a smiley. I think there should always be a smiley just to convey some good intent. One of the games I think has done loot boxes right is Overwatch, where the loot boxes only give cosmetic items and you get them frequently enough where you don't really have the need to buy more. That being said, there are definitely kids with credit cards out there. I think cosmetics can kind of distort what you think loot boxes are, because we kind of understand that getting an advantage in a game is something that you really want, right? And it can lure you more to getting this loot box and handing over money to roll the dice, so to speak. And cosmetics are really just part of that as well. They're just less enticing probably. But you've also mentioned that apparently you can get them without buying. So that generally does sound like a nicer strategy, but you know, I don't really know what's going on over at Overwatch. I'm still very much against the idea of loot boxes, but this does sound like a better way to go about it. I think loot boxes that you get just from playing the game are fine if it's a small reward, but you should not be able to buy them in any way, shape or form. If you get the loot box for free inside of the game, then it's more so a game mechanic than it is a loot box, because it's sort of like a randomized reward event. Thing is though, you do have to pay to get the game, so I kind of thought, well, what if the game was nothing but loot boxes and you had to pay for it? Really kind of distorting the discussion there, but yeah, that's a game mechanic. I think once you're handing over money to then get the loot box, that's when it becomes gambling. Are trading card packs considered gambling? This is quite honestly the best comment I've read in a while, just because it throws like a spanner into the cogs and stops everything in its tracks. I do not know what to make of that, but that is a very good point. trading card games can be physically played like a game, and in order to get advantages within a game like Magic the Gathering, you need to buy lots of trading card backs, and they are randomized rewards like a loot box. Inherently, I just feel like quite a strong resistance to that because I've just accepted it and therefore it is normalized. But I want to now start to think about this. That is a very interesting thought right there. Collecting resources in Minecraft is like a clicker game. You're just clicking on the sand or the stones or diamonds or endermen, etc., and watching the stacks rise. At least it pays off in the long run. The difference with Minecraft is that the reward is unleashing your creativity and creating things. Unless you really just do play to try and get chests and chests full of items, then you are usually exploring some creative avenue, and a challenge is proposed. You have to go out there into the environment, collect the materials, bring them back and build the thing, as opposed to other clicker games where the reward is simply like an artificial number that tends to just keep going up and up at a faster and faster rate, which I think is kind of like a cheap hack on the psyche and the dopamine rushes in the brain for unlocking things and getting rewards, whereas Minecraft is genuinely rewarding you with your own creativity being able to manifest itself inside of the game. That, and they will make it where you buy, say, 600 Minecoins for $10, but the map is 700 Minecoins. So you either pay 20 for the map or you buy more Minecoins and get another map. Yeah, this is another strategy that I'd heard about before. I listened to a whole podcast like quite some time ago about loot boxes and the kind of strategies that are deployed in these new microtransaction environments, and this was one of them mentioned. Yeah, and it's a really good point. I guess if you have a plan to buy lots of stuff over time, it doesn't affect you as bad, but if you just wanted to buy a one-time thing, yeah, it kind of jacks up the price inherently. A lot of it comes down to impulse control. If you get preyed on by these systems, it is your own fault. There are lots of other addictive things which haven't been banned, like cigarettes, which are way worse for your health and wallet than any microtransaction, loot box or gacha game. That said, systems that prey specifically on childs are obviously illegal, but it's just a lot harder to enforce an over 18 policy online than it is in real life, such as when buying lottery tickets. I find it hard to sympathize with this kind of point of view when the opening point is saying that it's your own fault for getting preyed on. We live in like a really complex world with lots of things going on, and we are educating each other and being educated from a young age in order to be safe in this world. You know, look both ways before you cross a road. You wouldn't say it's your own fault. It's a tragedy if someone gets hit by a car. I think throwing blame at someone is just unproductive, basically. So, you know, there's many things that we can be uneducated about that could cause us harm, so we're then taught about us, and there are many safeguards put into our society in order to protect us from things. From example, the use of lead in paints and all sorts of things, that got banned once we realized how bad it was for us, right? We didn't just go, oh, well, you should know better. We had to actually legislate laws to prevent things like that. And there's other examples as well. Anyway, a thought experiment that might be productive here is picturing yourself in some sort of predicament about something you really didn't know about, and then realize that that thing that you didn't really know about can be these things. Young people especially don't really understand gambling or microtransactions. These things are geared to try and take advantage of us. And the easiest thing to take advantage of is ignorance.